Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast episode of In the Box. So, in this episode, we have a very good friend of mine, Sid Mathur, who's coming on board. And, we had some interesting conversations. He's had an amazing journey. He has been a studio owner, got into music production. He's a phenomenal musician. Plays the bass. He's just absolutely great. We've worked on a bunch of projects together. So he was in my band. He was the very last bassist of the band Cyanide. So that was cool. We had some good times over there. Also, we worked on a musical. We did my first album. He was the producer of my very first solo album, Lead the Way. And then we did a musical at this theater venue called Kingdom of Dreams. The musical was called Whizwits. It was like a play it was a musical for children, and we did all the music for it. So that was fun. But now he's gone on to do amazing, huge things. I mean, he's now scoring for film and television. And he is the music composer for this huge show on Netflix called Jamtara. They just came out with the second season of Jamtara, and it's a great show. So everyone go and check that out. And yeah, I mean, we just had a really great time catching up, and I thought his story is pretty interesting. So let's get right in the box with Sid Mathur.
I'm gonna go deep in the box. Ooh, deep in the box. One, two, three, here we go.
What's up, buddy? Good to see you, bro.
What's up? Yo, yeah, it's been a while. Like,
Been a while, bro.
yeah, missing being in Delhi and the independent scene and all that stuff. Missing catching up, man.
I
You know?
know, I know. I think you came here last. It was maybe right before COVID hit.
Yeah,
I
something like
remember
that.
we were filming some stuff for the Audio Institute,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
popped by one day, and we did a couple of videos with you as well. Compression a la Sid.
We were discussing compression, yes. Cool,
Nice,
man.
man.
But
Nice.
it turned out to be a good day anyway, apart from a good
Yeah,
video shooting experience, but also
yeah,
nice
yeah, yeah,
catching
yeah.
up.
Absolutely, dude. Of course, it's always a blast catching up. Grab a couple of
Yeah.
beers and reminisce about old time. We go way back, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
man.
crazy. I was just thinking, like,
Yeah, it's been more than a decade and a half, isn't it?
oh yeah, yeah, bro. Like, I mean,
Like,
we've been hanging out since maybe 2006, 2007. In 2009, we did Lead the Way. But
yeah,
but we'd
yeah.
been hanging out before that, just in the scene.
I think I first saw you play this gig with Half Step Down in.
Yes,
Yeah, there used to be this place in CP. At the corner of
yes, yes. Blues. I think Blues
so-
Cafe.
something like that. No. It wasn't the Blues Cafe. It was right next
Deviate.
to the
Deviate.
DV8. It was
Yes.
DV8.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I remember. I remember my picture came in RSJ for that gig, and another
Ah,
band. I think Crimson was playing, and
yeah.
what was Sid Koto's band? Its name?
Uh, Helga's.
HF's. Yes, Helgas.
Yeah, yeah,
Those
yeah.
guys were playing. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was us. I remember that. That was crazy.
What a scene that used to be, man. Like so many gigs. We used to like just meet at so many gigs.
Yeah.
Where are those gigs now? I don't know. Where are the bands? Why are people not making music?
Ah, it's just well, we can get into that. We can get into
Yeah.
yeah, let me just forgot to change the screen here. Maybe we can oh no, actually this is fine. Yeah. No, so I mean, let's talk about just what the scene was, and maybe your journey. Like, how did you start? How did you become a musician? How did you enter the scene? And then we can keep discussing what the scene used to be back in the day and where it is now.
Yeah, well, for me, professional music started around 2005. 2000 and, 2003, I went and did my audio engineering course in Toronto at this place called Trebas Institute. I came back and my old friend Gaurav, I connected with him, and he was playing in a band with Rishi called Radius. Rishi, Josh, Manas.
I had no
So
idea that Gaurav was in that band.
Gaurav was a part of that band. In fact, he got me into that band. Uh,
Yeah, I remember you
then,
being in the band. Yeah.
yeah, it was a five-piece band earlier.
Okay.
Then, then we took a break from the band and we started producing Rishi's album. So by that time, it was 2006. We went to the UK to record his vocals. The album was mastered at Abbey Road. Then in 2006, and came back. I reconnected with Gaurav, and we took over AJ's studio, and that was the birth of Quarter Note Studios.
Mm. Yeah.
And once that happened, and that started its own journey, like just catching up, or like just getting into some serious music making with so many people.
Yeah.
There have been many good musicians who've come to that space, and that space has got a lot of musical energy. So it was just amazing. So it started from there. Lots of projects happened. Lead the Way happened. Many more
Yeah.
albums
Sugar
happened
coated
over there.
also. Sugar coated
Shug-
was pretty much the drums and all. Anything to do with microphones was recorded there for
yeah,
Cyanide's album. Yeah.
yeah. So it was, I think, one of the earlier good studios. Like after that, quite a few studios came up in the scene.
Mm.
A lot of people took inspiration from that place to open up their own spaces. Like,
I mean, yeah, I think
and
me included. I think um, you know, I remember that was like a second home for me, and I used to always come and hang out there, even if I was just in the area. I remember I used to call you, "Hey, what's going on? Let's. I'll bring over a couple of beers, and or we tell Ranjit to go get a couple of beers, and
yeah,
we'd hang out. And yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of work in that place, and I think my initial learning about production very much came from quarter note and working with Anupam with Cyanide stuff. Like a lot of those early, I mean, like I remember having the sort of brain for what layers a song should have, like the musical side of production. I kind of just had that
yeah.
inbuilt
You
with me,
always had these ideas of like,
of
or this chord,
layer
that, and I was like,
harmony.
okay, this is how we can do it. Like, we could probably pan this one there, and like, have this whole. So yeah, it was a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
partnership making music with you,
absolutely, yeah.
and just being in the art of making music. It's just so much to it. Like
Yeah,
just the simple act of, say, recording drums. There's just so much that goes into it, like, so
yeah,
I was fresh out of my engineering, trying out different things, different mic techniques. It was a very exciting time. I mean,
yeah,
and I tried out a lot of those sounds on many independent uh, music artists that I worked with,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
so it was a lot of fun. It was actually laying the building blocks of making music, like on
Right.
a,
Yeah.
it was very fundamental way of making music. Of
No,
course,
it
now
was
a lot of electronics have come into the scene.
right. Exactly. Exactly. But that was the day. I mean, that was the day and age of indie musicians, and I remember that being a very almost like holy space. I remember quarter note. Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely inspired me, and like I'm now. I mean, I've got this space which is small, one room place, but I'm constructing a full blown commercial studio, and that's two control rooms, two live rooms, that kind of a thing.
Eh,
So
yeah, man. I think Delhi still needs it.
yeah,
It's a very different kind of music making space in Delhi. It's
right,
not it's not driven by the commercial Bollywood, as we say.
yeah.
Uh, Even though commercials are important, uh, you know, like
No,
nothing
absolutely, and
happens
and
without the
and I
transactions.
have that on my little list of questions for you here. I do want to get into the commercial side and the business side of, how things differed from, you know, being an indie musician to where you are now. But we can get into that maybe once you just finish your overall story and your journey. So then you came and you started Quarter Note, and that became like a spot for a lot of musicians that I know, that became like a spot that everyone would come and hang out. And of course
Yeah,
there were
that.
other studios, but I remember that being the one that we would always want to hang out at. And it was a very fun space. So then what happened there? Like,
It,
how did you go from being a studio owner to sort of where you are now, which is a film composer? You score music.
so Quarter Note actually was a musician space, including myself. Like my purpose of getting into the studio business was to have a space uh, to myself to keep experimenting and expanding my musical knowledge. And Delhi is a place where people make music from the heart, and there are so many different kinds of musicians out there. Of course, the Indian musicians, but also there's a huge community of Indian classical musicians as well. So and it's amazing how much how people go through hardships to like just pursue their passion.
Yeah.
I work with so many people who like just collected some basic funds to get a song out. So I always had that inclination towards helping out uh, the the musicians, being a musician myself. Like,
Hmm.
so there was a lot of times when you know uh, we were not charging as much just because I liked the song to work on. And there have been times when we've sent bands back because they were not prepared, to come and record.
Well, that's
There
I love that
are
mentality. I love that mentality. It's like,
so
bro, go learn your song before you fucking come over
yeah,
here.
because
Yeah,
if,
you know.
I mean, like, yeah, I am getting paid by the hour, but look, I don't have time for this, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
there's just so little time and there's so much music to make, and I can't waste it on, well, unless of course, like, every once in a while you feel that you should work with uh, people who are still learning how to make music so that they get better at their skill. So I've done that too in my
Right.
downtime. Like always was up to making any kind of music as long as there's something coming from the heart. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
it may not necessarily have a commercial thing, but angle to it. But if somebody really believes in their song, I want to help you do it. Like
Yeah.
bring it to tape. So that was always my approach at that space. Of course, there were many other commercial projects that were balancing out the whole system over there.
So, like, what were the
Uh,
commercial projects you were getting at that time? Like ads
uh,
and that type of stuff?
yeah, there were ads, there were jingles, there was a lot of radio stuff that used to happen. There was a lot of corporate stuff that used to happen. Then there were these good bands who would like do some bulk bookings at the studio, and my intention was always to expand the studio through every project, like reinvest to get good gear available to make even better music, to like
Yeah.
establish a sound that Delhi was heading towards. So like I
I
remember
always relate the sound to a. I remember you had this drummer. Um, I,
drummer's always been with me.
I remember just the sound of that. I always relate it to quarter note. Now I have a plugin of the. I think the S73. Is that the one you had?
I had a 1960 drummer
Okay,
1960.
so there's a plugin of the S73, which is a saturator slash compressor. But every time I see that logo and the drummer, I can't help but think of you
It
and think of
was
quarter note.
it was such a beautiful piece of gear. It's still there actually, so
Oh, is
anytime
it
you're missing
still?
it too
It's
much,
Oh, is it there right
yeah,
now? Okay,
yeah,
nice,
yeah.
nice. Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
through different projects, I got just a lot of exposure to very different kinds of music, like uh, especially a lot of classical, a lot of folk, a lot of different kinds of even rock, jazz, blues. Uh, we got to work with like really established bands like Indian Ocean, Parikrama, Mrigya, Cyanide, of course, like was there. Dem Clones was there at that time. Uh, and then I remember even John Leckie made his way to the studio, and we had set up a session to showcase the bands of Delhi to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite a session we had for over a couple of days, I think. Uh, it was a session where John Leckie was here trying to shortlist bands from India that he would like to produce for a compilation or something like that.
Right, right. I remember. I think he did something with Superfuzz in Bombay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Superfuzz was also a part of one of the bands that came to the studio for that.
Okay, okay, okay.
So that was a good session. But then, yeah, generally interacting with so many producers and musicians, and of
Mm.
course, like so many songs that I listen to now that I had made in that space are they're still alive.
Yeah,
They had that vibe waiting to be produced. So it was a good time. But I think being a producer, you're pretty much a composer yourself. I mean, I was always both a musician and an engineer, so that composition side was always alive.
mm.
Uh, Used to compose like uh, s- smaller stuff like jingles and
Yeah,
corporate
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
all the time. But then a movie happened. It was 2014. A friend of mine, he asked me to compose music for this film
Children of
called
War, right?
Children of War.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's get into that. How does that just sort of happen? How does a fucking movie just like land in your lap? That's
It,
crazy.
it, it is crazy. It is this friend of mine. He was working. He's a very old friend of mine, and I just randomly met him. We were both actually walking our dogs, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "I just moved here," and so I was like, "Okay, what are you working on?" I'm working on a film, and I'm looking for a composer. I'm like, "Okay, let's meet." So we just like both. You remember Pluto? I just
Yeah,
like
yeah. Of
took
course.
Pluto back home.
Yeah.
I took Pluto back home, and then like I'll see you like in a half an hour.
Yeah.
And half an hour later, we were just discussing the script, and I really loved it, and I was like, I'm on board. So the next day, we signed the contract, and that's how it happened. Uh,
It's so crazy that how sometimes an element of luck is
yes,
is just
at that time, I
huge.
really needed it, and I think I may have sent out a message to the universe that I think I need to do some films because just maybe just about a week before that, I was just thinking to myself, maybe what's the next step, like because you know even though the music coming out of the speakers was different almost every day, but
Mm.
we were still heading towards a stagnation because every day just recording bands. There had come a point where you just playing different chords doesn't make it a different song. You not people were not reinventing. So I was just kind of getting feeling a little stagnated at one point. And so you
And
know
that's strange for you to feel that way because I remember you have always been one person that has been so musically like never put into a box. Like you're very open to kind of all kinds of genres. I remember I was the opposite. I was very like, no, I just want to listen to this and I just want to listen to that. And this is what I think my song should be like. And I remember you used to try to keep pushing me. Then, no, no, just open your mind a little bit, you know? Um, yeah. So
yeah,
it's
I mean,
weird how
I
you would feel that.
see, because it was a culture. It was a culture at that point for bands to follow that thing. Like, they had their ideals in the scene. They wanted to be like them. And and my question was, why like anybody? Like, just be yourself. Why don't you like uh, find your own ground, find your own music?
Hmm.
Just everybody wanted to be a rock star. Everybody just wanted to like, use bad singing techniques, like burn up their throats, but like give that like image at
Hmm.
that point in time. So many people were like that. I'm talking about there was a bunch of bands out there that I worked with, but that led me to realize that I'm not either. I write my own songs,
Hmm.
but at that time there was just so many people wanting to make their music that I wasn't finding time to do that. I wasn't finding every day, like there was sessions lined up, there was like pending stuff, there was things in the pipeline. So I was I was really trying to break out, and that is when I thought, man, I think I need a film, because I want to now get into like some because I had started appreciating some of the film music that I had been watching, and I was like, this is amazing. And
Mm.
around that time, a lot of my playlist had turned to like soundtracks, it's
Ah,
instead of
interesting.
bands or songs. I used to listen to like lots of Hans Zimmer, Paul Newman, like
John Williams.
John Williams, Howard
Mm.
Shore,
Yeah,
like Lord of the Rings kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just like got me there. Like, so I was like, this is something that I really want to expand into and explore. So a lot of orchestral. Then I remember when we worked on Bizwits,
Whereas
a
I
lot
was
of
going to
those
bring that up.
orchestral, a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah,
those
yeah,
orchestral, ideas were used,
yeah, yeah.
which was very amazing. It was something that we were not doing on a regular basis. So I really wanted to get into that. Very theatrical, like how it didn't matter if you sang something in pitch, but if your emotion and your expression uh,
Yeah,
is like really out there, it just like draws you in. So I was trying
absolutely.
to.
You can be as
I wanted
technically
to.
sound as possible, but if you are not giving me the emotions as a listener, then
Yeah,
uh, you've lost me as a listener, basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that the science of emotion is in music
Dude,
is what
okay.
I really.
I remember the curtain call, not opening, the curtain opening little musical bit that we made. That you know, man. I think that that encompasses the whole fucking story in just that little piece. I think it's
Yeah,
beautiful. And I think that
that's.
that could literally be like the opening theme for like some DreamWorks or something. It could be for some film. It's as good, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
it's
remember adding those crow sounds. You know
yeah.
the.
Oh god. That was a fun project. That was
But there
yeah.
was so much science into it, man. Like
Yeah.
it worked. It just like took you into this children's world. Like there are sounds, there are infinite sounds. Like
And it was a lot of fun to have a lot of those kids come to the studio and actually do, like actually bring out their own characters onto the microphone. Like, like there was this one wizard who would go, and then there was another one like,
yeah.
do I eat you? Like
Yeah.
the funny guys and the waitress doing something, and then of course Sushant and Deepak sort of doing their own thing. I remember Deepak
Yeah.
something he would all say, "My paddle flower."
How are you doing, boys?
Oh man, that is hilarious. I actually caught up with Sushant not too long ago. Well, maybe a couple of months ago, and like we
Okay.
probably spoke on the phone for like 2 hours, man. And it was like nothing. It was like no time has passed. We were just like chatting and doing all kinds of stuff. He's also doing some interesting stuff. He's gotten into a little bit of filmmaking now, sort
Oh
of
wow.
being behind the camera.
One talented
Yeah,
guy, man.
yeah, yeah, super
Like,
talented. Exactly. So, it was that project was a lot of fun. It definitely uh,
yeah.
was the final push for me because that was the last project I did before I left for the US to start studying production. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and like I, like many others, sort of although downloaded Logic, got some cracked plugins and stuff, and so like
It's okay, bro. You always try before you
yeah,
buy.
built a little studio and was very unsuccessful because it wasn't sounding like what I had in my head what my song should sound like, right? And I was
Yeah.
just like, why? But I'm following all the YouTube videos, and I'm like I'm using all the presets. I'm like, this compressor preset says guitar acoustic, so it should work, And I mean, I'd really hate to burst anybody's bubble who is new at this and who thinks that just doing that is going to work. It's not. Like I
Yeah.
think you need to go out there and learn this, man. I think you need to, because that opened a whole other world for me, not just
Yeah.
knowledge wise, but also just being in close proximity, working in a big studio, interning at a huge studio, and just being in proximity to all these people and 24 hours a day, where pretty much that's my world, and like
Yeah.
just the kind of stuff and just the kind of the types of music that you're, uh, you know, uh, just exposed to is just like, It's amazing, and that also solidified. Quarter note was like the root of it, but working at Engine Room certainly solidified the fact that I definitely want to build my own studio someday.
Yeah,
Other than the
yeah.
commercial reason, which of course I'd like it to be commercially successful, and there's a plan for that, but you know, just to have a place of your own where you can just record
It's
an
a joy.
album, record your whole album, and the clock's not ticking. There's
It's bliss.
Yeah,
It's bliss.
clock is not
That yeah,
ticking, and you mic up your drums the way you want to, without
yeah,
anyone sort of standing on your head, without any kind of clock ticking, and you can just be. Use the
yeah,
mics you want,
yeah,
use the preamps, or use whatever it is that you want to use. You use the tools at your disposal,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah. So
So yes, Vismits happened. Children of War happened. After that, Children of War led me to my second film, which was Budhya Singh.
mm,
It was the AD on Children of War was also AD on Budhya Singh. He recommended my name, and
okay.
then I came to Bombay to check out the film, have a meeting with the director, and yes, we just clicked. In our first meeting, we were pretty much had a plan ready. Like this is how we're going to score it, and that's when I met Somendra for the first time. It was just amazing working with him as well. And then Somendra went on to make Jamtara season one, and now Jamtara season two is happening, which is about to drop on 23rd of
Yeah,
September.
so everyone, please, whoever's not watched this show, you need to go watch Jamtara season one. I'm rewatching the show right now. It is so good, and I'm like super excited. That season two is coming out, and like, I genuinely like the show. I'm not gonna lie. I started watching it because, of course, you did the music for it, and you're one of my closest
Yeah.
friends. So I'm like, yeah, of course, got to watch, got to support, and all that. But it's crazy that once I started watching the show, and what I'm about to say is actually a compliment to you. But once I started
Mhm.
watching the show, I didn't notice the music at all. You know,
Okay, that is actually a
that is
compliment.
a
Thanks.
compliment because you, as a composer, achieved your goal of enhancing the story, and you were not trying to upstage the story, in which is the most important thing.
Yes,
And
yes, that was.
yeah, go ahead.
We really didn't want to. Didn't really want to overtake the narrative at all.
Yeah,
And Jamtara one was a time when we were actually we tried many directions. It took us about 9 months to do that. We took so many directions, discarded it, and even Soumendra was like, "Oh, this piece of music is so good. I just can't stop listening to it." But that is the problem. Like
hmm,
I just kind of missed the dialogue. I kind of missed that little important detail over there, and I was like,
yes.
You're actually right." And it's a tough thing to erase an idea and then come up with something which is. But having said that, like what we came up with was just drew us into the story.
Yeah.
So that is one of the skills that I developed over time, which started like and in season two we've explored that emotion even a lot more. So it's just expanded on many
I'm
different
I
levels.
gotta say, bro,
It
I
just
think I'm on I think episode 4 or something right now. I mean, I've watched season 1. I'm rewatching it.
yeah.
I kind of remember it, but so I don't want to sort of give away any spoilers. But I do recommend for anybody who's watching this a podcast or listening to the podcast, definitely log on to Netflix and check out Jamtara. It's amazing. Is there anything about season 2 that you can tell? No.
Yeah, I can tell you that it's exploding, yeah, in all directions. Well, you
Okay.
can say season one was very linear.
Okay.
Like you stay with the characters.
Yeah, yeah.
You stay with the character. You just had a scene with them. The next scene is them at a different place, and the story moves along. Here, it's going in all the directions. Many things are happening at the same time. The scale, There's bigger scams.
Oh my God. So
There's madder
obviously,
type.
then Sunny, obviously, he doesn't die, right? Because I mean, maybe I spoiled it for everyone who hasn't watched season one, but
Well,
yeah.
the trailer is out and you can see him in there. So
Oh
yes, he's
yeah,
alive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So,
guess so. I guess so. Anyhow,
so
anyhow,
this is not me giving you the spoilers. This is
the
Netflix
trailer is
themselves.
given the spoilers. Yeah. No, no. Of
Yeah.
course, don't reveal anything that's gonna spoil the story, obviously, or get you into any kind of trouble. We don't want that. But it's a great show, man. Great job. I think everyone that's involved in it is, just doing an amazing job. For me, it. I love TV shows, but I can also be very critical of TV shows. So, like the
Yeah.
fact that it really captured me to the point where I initially started watching it for the music and then completely ignored the music, and because the music enhanced the story. And if you try to mute it in certain climactic scenes, it just drops. The whole scene
Yes.
drops without the music. So yeah,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
amazing job. And so are you liking it? Like you feel like this is your calling to do, scores?
Well, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing right now. There's a whole bunch of things in the pipeline, and it's really fun to explore many different kinds of music. I like really stepping out of my comfort zone. I just did a Kannada short film, which needed
Interesting.
to be explored in a very different way. So so I mean, it's inspiring me to pick up more instruments. Like
Really?
uh
Like
yeah, so like
Iktara?
Iktara, yes, there's an Iktara lying around somewhere. There's a this thing called a Bagal Bachu over here. Very
Oh,
interesting thing.
that's what I mean, man. I mean, you are just
Yeah.
as a person, you're very open to all these sort of stepping outside your comfort zone. And I usually need people to push me in that direction to sort of step out of the comfort zone. But okay, I mean,
Yeah. A lot of folk.
right. But okay, like let's talk about maybe just the business side of things a little bit. Like, I mean, what was the difference between, doing business as a studio engineer and as a film scorer? And I mean, did it take you time to sort of figure out the business model? And
Yes, there was a transit stage. I think one is always in a transit. Like well, was hoping to grow with every project. But yes, the business models are very different. Being a studio owner and being a composer.
Mhm,
Studio owner, you're running a shop. In a way, you're running shop over here as a composer as well. But
mhm,
then you have, uh, you know, different things that you're looking for. Like as a studio owner, I would just be looking at filling up my studio hours.
mm,
But as a composer, not only am I looking at filling up my hours, but also expanding and reinventing myself as a composer with every project, exploring newer stuff, collaborating with many other different people who are good at what they do,
right.
and and generally trying to reach an industry standard of deliverables because see, filmmaking is a commercial art. Like it cannot exist without the commercials because things are expensive, cameras are expensive,
Mhm,
the human resource is expensive,
right. And hence, the
what
budget is more, obviously, too.
budget is more, coordinating and time is of the essence because when you have taken like dates of some stars and the crew and everything, that date becomes
Mm,
important. You
mhm,
cannot miss the date
right.
because getting them all together means huge costs. Like there's location costs, so it is a commercial art, right? It cannot you know people say, yeah, you make films for passion. Yes, there are people who do. There are people who invest into things, but not looking at it commercially. But then you still have to invest because it just takes money to produce it
Right,
to a
right,
certain good quality.
right, right,
So,
right.
so it is very important to deliver uh, to the highest quality that you can, and that is where you have to really up your skill to be relevant also, and to make sure that you know we pretty much in our industry say that you're as good as your last project.
Right.
because 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 if something didn't go right, then people are very quick to typecast you into like some like a working somebody who works in the market or doesn't,
Right.
like that.
And if
So
some the new generation, the younger generation, of musicians that are coming into the scene, some of them want to be getting into films or working in this industry. I mean, how would you sort of advise them to jump into it? What steps should they
there's
take?
there's just so many ways you can be a part of the industry. It's just it depends. Like, you can be a session musician, you can be
Or like
an engineer, you
interning?
can be a
Do
producer.
do people intern for composers or studios and stuff out here?
There are, yes, all the time.
Yeah.
There are, in fact, I also needed interns for Jamtara, this in season 2 and stuff, because it's the workload, the deliverables, in the sense, like, there's, uh, we were making 350 minutes of music,
Mm.
and and all of them were in separate sessions, and all of them had to be stemmed and delivered so that the 5.1 mixing engineer could make sense of the whole thing without losing sync, which is
Mhm.
very important, because we are we're scoring in very subtle ways. Like, a little swell could come on an eyebrow raise of somebody, for example.
Right.
If that sync is moved, that piece of music just doesn't make any sense. In
Right.
fact, it'll bother you.
Correct.
It'll suddenly become, from enhancing, it'll become an obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is very important to keep the, to preserve the music
Yeah.
in transit.
Mm.
Like, you have to make sure that what you have made eventually reaches the audience, and the data goes through, changes hands so many times. Like, you gave it to a mixing engineer who pre-mixes it, gives it to the main mixing engineer, who, they then, after that, once it has reached there's an edit, in the film. So everything is going to be moved. One scene move means, like, everything has to be moved, video and audio.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure the integrity is preserved for every scene that we have made. So there's a whole lot of technical stuff, and it's not a one-man job to
Of course.
compose
Of course. Yeah.
and manage the data. So there's just, it's a teamwork, and it's very important to have a good team.
Right. Right. No, that's
So
awesome, man. That's awesome. And we're going to take a short little break, and we're going to just give a shout out to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. There are so many different types of musicians in the world. You have indie artists. You have people that are signed up to major record labels or even indie labels. So many different genres. People going to big studios. People producing at home. I mean, there's no boundaries or there's no limit anymore to what you can do. So why limit yourself? They say that what it really takes to have a great sounding record is a great source sound. So check out Radio Ready Mixing and the sample packs that they have to offer. These are brilliantly and professionally crafted sounds that you can use and download those sample packs, and you can use them in your songs, and you can tweak them any way that you want to in the future, right? But in addition to that, they offer all kinds of different services. And like, they offer mixing and mastering packages, just mastering packages, indie label package, major label package. I mean, the list just goes on. So you can go and check it out over there. But the best thing is that if you are doing an EP or an album, then you can get a 15% discount if you're doing 3 songs or more. Discounts will automatically be applied at the cart, and you will receive a total of 5 revisions per song, no matter which package that you choose. So I think that's pretty awesome. And I know these guys, they are great, great producers and great engineers. So go and check out radioreadymixing.com and use the discount code ITB pod and check it out. And we're back. So, dude, that's,
yes.
it's great to hear your story. And, but I want to go a little back in time a little bit. I want to talk about Lead the Way, because
Oh
I
yes, man.
think that is,
That was one of the times when we came and had a glimpse of the industry, isn't it? Like, we
yes.
were at the heart of the Mayanagri.
Yeah. Oh, man. I think, one thing I noticed, we pretty much recorded that album twice.
Yes, yes, we
Once
did.
in
In
quarter
a way.
note, and then we basically re-recorded maybe 90 or 95% of it. again in
Yeah.
Bombay. And it was the way the
Yeah.
industry works in Delhi and Bombay are so different, and we can get into that if you want. But I have amazing memories, bro, from that whole thing. Like I hear, like I'll hear a certain part, and like it's almost like hearing memories. I'll hear a certain part, and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember after after this session we went to Bhuvan's place, and then that and that. Although we used to go to Bhuvan's place almost every night, but like certain thing happened like over there, like like you got into a little bit of a uh, like a friendly scuffle with Akshay, and then you broke your finger
Yeah.
or something. I had to take both you and Josh to the hospital in that same trip,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you took
It's
me to the
crazy.
hospital on another trip again in Bombay to the
Yeah.
same hospital.
Yeah. We checked in for the night,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah, exactly. On Diwali.
Yeah. Crazy times, man. We've
Yeah,
had some crazy times in this city.
yeah, dude, absolutely, absolutely. I
In that city also, in both the cities. I
both the
mean, we're
cities,
crazy.
bro, both the cities. I was listening to it, and
Yeah.
it's still a record that I listen to, and I'm like, that that is good. That
It
there's
was,
nothing wrong with it.
it's,
You know?
nothing wrong.
Yeah,
It's one of my favorite albums.
yeah,
It just, you wrote some really heartfelt songs in there, man. And it's great to, revisit it.
yeah, yeah. You know,
It's a lot of fun. I make a lot of people listen to that, like,
oh, thank you. Amazing, dude. That's amazing. When I go back and I watch some of the vlogs that we made, like the making of, oh God, the first thing that comes to my mind is, look at how young we were.
yeah, there must be some gems in there, huh?
I had a full set of hair. Your hair was all black, and
Yeah,
it was just shit. We were just just a bunch of kids just having a good time and trying to make good music, and that's just pretty much it.
we did make some good music, man. We had a great time in the
Oh
studio,
yeah, 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 dude, absolutely.
and it was a big learning experience as well. Like, being in a setup like that, it
Yeah,
was, you know,
like you're
you need to be on.
talking about Yashraj.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, man, absolutely. Oh my God, do you know who I've reconnected with? Andrew.
Oh, Andrew is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
It's crazy, man. He was amazing.
he works at Abbey Road now. He works at in London, right?
Right. Yeah.
So he is so for my album, right? I am putting together. I mean, if you've been following everything that I've been releasing, there is a little bit of a theme to it. Like there is a symphony orchestra that surrounds the storyteller,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah, yeah,
anyhow, all the songs that have been released so far, plus all the unreleased ones, they're all going for live orchestration.
right.
So Andrew is putting together that orchestra, and they're going to be recording it in London, in a beautiful hall. So currently we've been working on the transcribing and that type of stuff for that. But
Oh,
yeah,
amazing,
yeah,
man.
yeah. So
Amazing.
all the MIDI parts will be sort of re-recorded as real orchestration, and then we'll get stems plus a board mix, and we'll see
Right.
whichever works. I hope the board mix just works because then it's less work for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for mixing and automation, if there's certain things that need to be accentuated, you can use the stems of just that particular thing in that particular moment. And
Yeah,
but I'm hoping
yeah.
that the board mix just kind of works, because it is about the emotion of the whole thing, and then to be able to capture that is, I think, amazing. So yeah, it's good to be in touch with him. I remember him being just a phenomenal musician, bro. Like, remember
He was
all the stuff he
amazing.
did
He
on the
just
piano.
brought.
Ah,
I remember he played a couple of notes on that track.
Hold
That
Me.
just made. Oh man. Ding ding ding
Yeah,
ding. The right note at the right time.
yeah,
That's it. That's all you need,
I
and
know,
it's joy.
I know.
You know?
And
Minimal, less is more.
oh, absolutely. Also, a huge lesson that I learned during that. You remember when we were re-recording all the drums for whatever reason?
Yeah.
Josh, did a great job on all the tracks in Bombay as well as Delhi. But except for "Forgive Me, Lord," not that he did a bad job or anything, but he just somehow wasn't able to recreate that emotion that he did in the Delhi takes, right?
it's impossible to recreate any emotion. We just loved
We
what he
just
had done
loved
in
that,
Delhi,
and that
and
was perfect. And for
we
us,
weren't ready to let it
yeah,
go.
we weren't ready to let it go. And I remember we kept it, but we
Yeah,
re-recorded that recording. We put up mics in the control room in front of the speakers and just recorded it through
yeah.
that. I still can't wrap my head around how that would make a difference, because you're still eventually re-recording something which is already recorded from somewhere else. So you're re-miking something else.
But
But whatever it
yeah,
is,
but now there's a bit of analog in there now, like in the
I guess
sense
so.
like
Yeah, I guess so.
there's
Yeah.
additional air, and
Yeah.
a mic tonality,
Yeah, and it's
and a
almost
room
like
tonality.
natural compression that's just in there now, just by
It's a technique. It's a technique that many people
it's
use around the
crazy.
world.
No, I mean,
So
I
and it worked.
I know, and that, like, I couldn't wrap my head around how. I mean, like, I know what it does now and like why people do it now, but at that point, it was just a huge learning experience where I was like, what? But it's the same fucking recording that you're just re-recording. If anything else, it's like it's going to be lesser quality. It's kind of like recording with a stereo recorder in front of a speaker instead of the actual thing. But it wasn't. But also, the
Yeah,
lesson actually was that it's the performance that is more important than the technical aspect of stuff. It is
yeah,
eventually the performance that always has to trump. I mean, unless
yeah.
the performance is completely unusable because okay, like you completely every single note is clipping, or like the XLR cable was fucked up or something. That, like, those are different things. But I would assume if you're
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
engineer, you probably won't even let the whole take be recorded if those issues are happening. You would stop it right there, just be like, okay, we need to fix this, right?
yeah.
But it is the
There are
performance.
many times you can't do that. Yeah, by the way,
Well, if you're doing it live, sure. But I mean,
if you have mad musicians like Igor, he just plugged in and started playing, and I'm like, can you just give me a second so that, like, can we start again? No, man, like that take is gone.
and
That take is not coming back. So you just hit record and do all your adjustments while it
And
is
so
on.
now that's also a huge lesson for people that are trying to do studio sessions, is that you have to be ready, before the artist gets there, come what
Yes,
may.
yes,
You have
yes.
to be prepared for the fact that if this guy comes in, sits on his chair and just starts playing, buddy,
And
you
that
need to
was it.
capture it.
And that was it.
Yeah, and like you
And
you have to be able to capture it. So yes, ideally, if you are miking something, ideally, yes, it should be the same musician with the same guitar on that mic while you're doing your sound check. But if you have some larger artists that come and who don't want a sound check, who just like, let's go, you have to be
this reminds me
prepared.
of a
Yeah,
this reminds me of a story I read about Prince.
really,
Now Prince used to play over 35 instruments.
right.
What he expected was every instrument be set up, tuned, mic'd, and ready to go before he gets to the studio. And yes, he used to sing as well,
Mhm.
which means he could play and sing any instrument at
So
any
you'd
time.
have a mic for vocals on each and every one.
Yeah. And then he would just roam around the studio, maybe sit on the drums and just record
That's
something. And if you
70
didn't,
channels that you have to have
yes,
at his
yes.
disposal.
And, and if you didn't record that, he would leave and never come back to your studio again.
Wow. Can you imagine?
That's some another level of pressure,
So
man.
I did a session in Toronto at Metalworks Studios one time. I recorded
Yes, I've been
this
there.
friend of mine that's a rapper. And I just, because at that point I was planning to move to Toronto, so I just wanted to check out some studios and stuff over there. So I'm like, okay, so I'd heard about Metalworks. And I went into the room where Prince um, did a bunch of songs. And I can't be sure, but I think he did Purple Rain as well over there. And whatever's the session that he did there, but he recorded maybe a whole album or something over there. But they have left everything the way it was. Like where the piano was is still there even today. There was a Studer, A800 tape machine
Tape machine.
that is still there in that spot. They're like that, man, this room has been blessed by him and nothing's going to move from this spot. So anybody that comes in drum tracking, oh, ye piano hatao, sorry boss, hum nahi hatayenge. You can go to another room and fucking. They have like, I think they have 7, 8 rooms. That's a huge studio. They have 7, 8
Yeah.
rooms with probably 3 A rooms. Like, so they've got 3 large format consoles, one Neve and 2
Nice.
SSLs. So
Right.
I was trying to get into the Neve room, but there was a band there recording, so I went into the SSL, which of course I was super comfortable with because that's what I worked on at Engine
Right.
Room. Yeah. But the interns there were pretty shit. So I was very happy that I'm like, wow, like in New York, we have it down, man. Like our interns were like solid, like any
Right.
connection, anything. I mean, everyone knew how to do. I mean, any certified intern sort of knew how to do that. Like this guy didn't know how to work a patch bay. I was like, oh God. I'm like,
Oh,
how do I connect this preamp to the LA2A? He's like, oh, I don't know.
oh, he must be new, man. Cut him some
I
slack,
mean,
man.
but
Like, and Canada is a little
little
laid
more,
back, yeah.
yeah, a little more laid
Yeah.
back. Even Atlanta. So I told this story to my buddy Leonard, and he's like, bro, you won't believe it. He's like, if he's like, if you, me, and Vinny, like we were the top engineers at the studio at the time, right? The senior most engineers. So he's like, bro, if the three of us move to Atlanta today, we will put everyone out of work, all the engineers. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, because everyone is so laid back there. In New York, we're like, go, 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 go,
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
New York minute.
yep. Yeah. Don Henley.
7 seconds, bro.
Yeah,
7 seconds.
exactly. So, yeah, but that studio was crazy. And like, yeah, and it was elaborate. There was a whole bunch of shit. Obviously, the instruments, that he probably were his, obviously are not there, but sort of the basic stuff is sort of still set up. And I think they still have tape markings on the floor, on the carpets and things like that of where everything was.
Nice.
And yeah, it was like you step into the room and you can just hear all all the stuff that probably happened there. It was just absolutely
Yeah,
absolutely
rooms like
crazy,
that,
man.
they store the energy, man. The energy remains,
Yeah.
just it's in the walls. It's just a crazy thing.
Yeah, man.
It's so much joy being in a good studio, man. Like
I
it's just
know, I know, I know. Dude,
blessing.
I'm very excited about my studio. I'm just very excited to, have a place that I can record drums. I really miss recording, like actually tracking drums and miking up a drum set. So I'm very, very excited about that.
When is it happening? It's
It's under
in the
construction
pipeline.
right now. So I'm hoping maybe December should be done. Yeah.
First recording?
Sorry?
First recording in December?
Yes. Are you still writing? Are you still writing music, like songs and stuff?
Yes, I am. I've been writing some very shanti music also. Under the under the what do you call it? I call it World Peace Project.
Okay. Yeah, I think you've told me about
And
this.
yes, it's really music without ego.
Hmm. I like that.
That's
That's
how
how it should
that's how
be.
I define
That's
it.
how it should be.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's comforting music, that healing
Yeah.
in nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
With so I try to put in a lot of mantra energies or a lot of blessing energies in it, so that I was actually chasing a concept. I have a track uh, that I worked on. It is still under work in progress, but I was sourcing blessings in different cultures and different languages from around the world,
Hmm.
and just putting them all together in a track which is flowing like a river, so that you know even if you don't understand the words,
Hmm.
you'll just receive the vibration and just make you calm down. So that was the whole idea of a world peace project, because I don't think it's possible to have world peace, but you can have peace inside your head.
Yeah.
That is the origin of peace. You have
I
to
know.
be at peace with yourself
And
first
can you
before.
imagine if everyone just does that, we'll have world peace. If everyone
Yes.
is just at peace with themselves, I think a lot of this
Yes.
violence and a lot of the stuff I think it just stems from insecurity.
Yes.
It stems from insecurity, and it just goes off on a whole tangent. Ego and
Yeah.
insecurity.
Ego.
So,
It makes you think. It makes you do things that you really don't want to do.
hmm,
You know, but you get carried away, and then you do even more it's like lying. Like you have to, tell 100 lies to hide one lie.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and ego works in the same way. Anger works in the same way. You do something in anger, and then you spend all the time justifying why you did it, instead of just like kind of admitting to yourself that yes, you got carried away in an emotion that you shouldn't have.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
and yeah, and on a world stage, man, it takes another
Yeah. 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 Well, so why don't you
level.
talk a little bit about this project? What is it? And I mean, do you have any music out yet that people can listen to?
Yeah, I have a couple of tracks out. It's called World Peace Project. It's on Spotify and Apple Music, and I try to bring in a lot of universal themes to the music. Uh, some of the tracks are raga based, uh, and I try to do everything very in house right now.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
so like and I have my favorite collaborators. Always happy to have Chinta and Sharat, uh, and a couple of I think Lakshay was a part of the first track that we did,
Mm-hmm.
and the first track it came to me during uh, the first lockdown when we were trying to collaborate with all the people who could make music from from their homes and send it.
Mm.
And then I sent a shout out on Facebook to anybody who could send me nature videos.
Mm.
So there's a whole bunch of people who sent me amazing visuals from where they were from around the world, and I put it
Mm-hmm.
together. I sat down with Chintan and we put a video together and just I put it out. And I know, like, so we're just starting off exploring this direction. So I wasn't very sure who would be able to, like, if it worth investing in it right now. But then it turned out to be something that was really bringing me a lot of peace.
Mm.
So I worked on the second song, and now we have 3 songs out. There's like 3 or 4 ideas in the oven, and I'm always looking for themes that communicate peace.
That's
It
awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude.
so
I mean, I know I'm gonna go check it out. At
yeah,
some point
it's
today.
it's growing. It's in its nascent stage right now, but I have a vision for it, and hopefully I should be able to spend some more time making that kind of music.
Nice. So I did the theme song for there's a Delhi-based football team that represents Delhi and represents India also in some like junior leagues abroad in Spain. They're called
Okay.
Sudeva. So I
Oh,
did the theme
okay,
song
nice.
and I sang it, and it's all in Hindi. And I remember and this was all done during COVID, so it's all done through Zoom and stuff. And I, I basically put my vocals on there as kind of a placeholder.
Right.
And I thought that, once everyone approves of everything, then we'll just re-record it with somebody who's actually comfortable singing in Hindi. And
Yeah.
but even when there were placeholder, I made it a point to record it properly and sing it properly, and make the recording also like sound like a record, even though it was supposed to
Yeah.
be temporary.
And they just wanted to go with
Yeah,
it.
they were just like, wait, what do you mean re-record the vocals? I said, yeah, मैं थोड़ी गाऊंगा. They're like, क्यों? What's the problem?
गाऊंगा मतलब तुमने गा दिया भाई.
हाँ, exactly. He's like, I was like, nee, we'll get a vocalist. I said, don't worry, you don't have to pay anything extra. I'll pay out of what you've paid me. So they're like, no, it's not that. We're fine with this. This is good. We can't think of anybody else now. So
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah. I'll send you.
Yeah,
I'll send
man,
you a
things
link.
like that happened. Like that's how I actually got to sing 2 tracks in 2 films.
Yes, you saw your first song was in Children of War.
Yes, and it was a placeholder, by the way.
Really?
And it made it, yes, and it happened again in Budhia Singh. There was a track that I've sung.
Wow, that's awesome.
And trust me, after I had sung that, I think I tried out 7 people. I paid a whole lot of money to have somebody to sing my song nice. And so I mean, there's like, feel nahi aa rahi. Wali feel nahi aa rahi.
Yeah.
So, you know what happened? I said, okay, if I'm singing, I'll go to a proper studio and do it.
Yeah.
I went to 3 studios and I did 3 takes. We eventually ended up using that very take
The placeholder,
with
the demo.
the placeholder. Yes. Sometimes it just hits. You never know what
Exactly.
comes.
And it is about, and there's something to be said about the initial emotion of when you're trying to write and you're trying, because when you're writing the part and then you're trying to lay down those vocals,
Yeah.
then it's all about the emotion. Then it's all about the message. It's only later that you start to get into the whole technical aspects of things. So a lot of times
Yes.
that ends up being like, the best thing.
Yes.
Okay, so like what are some of like the mistakes that you've made, or things that you've learned from, that maybe the next generation can sort of learn from?
Well, never doubt yourself.
Is that something
Like
you did?
never. Yes. Like you're always trying to. You're never sure. Oh, whether it's a good track. Oh, is it? You take so many people's feedback. I'm not saying taking feedback is a bad thing, but then often, like, you have to really trust yourself. Like, why are you in it? Like,
Mm,
why are you doing what you're doing? There's a calling. There's always a calling. Just listen to that calling, and always make uh, just follow the heart. It's I know it sounds cliched, but it's a simple statement, but it's really tough to realize, and you keep realizing the same thing over and over again
mm,
through different experiences. Always follow your gut feeling.
yeah.
Always follow your heart. You know,
And it
do it with your
really is that
entire.
simple.
It's
Yeah.
it's so tough to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Has is always
And
simple.
you're
Like
absolutely right. And I wish that more people would listen to you. There are projects that I've worked on where, the artist, because there may be a record label involved with an A&R guy, and maybe they're trying to sort of mold that artist into something that they're not. And I feel like a lot of times the artist sort of loses their identity in just something that, somebody else wants them to be. And you hear that about, a lot of people, back in the day, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, like a lot of these pop singers, was sort of molded into something. Hanson were, are musicians who play their own instruments and write their own songs. But somehow, when you say Hanson, you always think of boy band. You can't help but think of
yeah,
that, right? So, and
yeah,
it's really sad that how people's perception looks down upon certain things based on what they believe that they are, just because of how they are marketed. And I think if
yeah,
people would just allow the artists to be themselves and just be true to what they really want to put out into the world and not think about, oh, what's popular, what's hot.
yeah,
I think people would have a lot more success. Like you have people like Olivia Rodrigo, who's really kind of bringing back rock and roll and almost like punk rock, punk pop, like Avril Lavigne type of stuff, making it popular again. Now you have all these kids that are the last couple of records that I've done with a couple of these teen artists. uh, you know, all of them were like, oh, their reference track would be an Olivia Rodrigo reference track, and I'm like, oh, damn, this
uh,
is like fucking like proper rock and roll, man. So, that's
yeah.
yeah, that's a good point, and I hope that more people kind of listen to that
Yes,
advice.
but when it comes to technicality, listen to your meters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Don't let a signal slip, but just because your heart tells you to do that.
Well, so
Like
now let's get into another thing. Wow, we can go on and on. So let's try to, let me try to phrase this in a way that's sort of short. When you said meters, right? Now you can
yeah.
clip analog. So now we're talking
Yes.
like analog versus digital. In the world that we're living in today, everything is moving more towards digital. I mean, at what point do you think that that's great, and at what point do you think that no, 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 no? I think it should be more
Look,
analog.
I am a hybrid believer.
Yeah.
Like I like digitally controlled analog stuff, so that you can put in your automations, get machines to do it very precisely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think that's some really expensive equipment that does
Now
that
you
also.
also have studios that have all this digital equipment, which is all hardwired to patch base, and
Yeah.
you can control. You can run your mix bus or whatever the fuck you want. You can mix your song through those things sitting here in your studio through the internet.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
so that's happening. I think we are headed to. You cannot let analog go.
Yeah, I mean,
No
believe me,
matter how.
I'm getting more analog gear. I've like I've tried to hide all the mess in the back.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
whole bunch of analog stuff that's now come for the studio and microphones and stuff. So
yeah.
I definitely, I know that you can't see the analog stuff that's off the screen right now, and so you
Right.
can't see it. But I do have a lot of analog stuff, and I just think that there is still this kind of warmth and space and depth that you get through analog that somehow maybe digital is still not really being able to do that.
Yeah.
Would you ever go
Like
back to doing things the way the Foo Fighters or Slash are doing them and recording straight to tape, no Pro Tools?
absolutely, man. Like
Yeah,
absolutely. If I could afford to,
yeah,
but if I could afford to go back, then I'm sure I could afford to
yeah,
do
yeah,
that
yeah.
too.
Maybe
That's
we should get together and just do a song purely on tape. That would be crazy.
yes, because that's about performance.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
where true passion of music is.
exactly.
It's now we've gotten so used to like being lazy musicians,
I
right?
know.
Like, yeah, okay, I don't
Ha,
need to really
we'll
play it.
do
Like,
it.
ठीक है,
Ha,
हाँ, वो edit कर देंगे उसको. But but even when we were starting out,
yeah,
performance was the the thing
right.
that you went in a studio to record.
Right, right. Yeah,
Now
absolutely.
artists are writing stuff and it's somehow yeah, I'll record a sentence today, record a sentence tomorrow,
Right.
like one verse day after, and suddenly I have this thing. Our whole processing has happened, and now we have a song here.
Right, right.
And
And look,
now
there's nothing wrong with that. And like that works for some people. And I mean, yeah,
absolutely nothing
yeah,
wrong
I
with
think,
it.
and sometimes we do that too. But I do feel what you're trying to say is that there's something to be said about just the sanctity of being a good musician and just getting in
Yes,
those great takes and capturing them well.
yes.
In a flow. The-
That is the kind of flow that I'm trying to get with World Peace Project
Yeah,
as well. Like one take.
yeah.
Give me a take. I'm even if I'm recording it
Bro,
digitally,
when
but
when my
at least
studio is done, I'd love for you guys to come and record over there. That'll be amazing.
uh,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward,
That'll
man.
be
Looking
so
forward.
cool, man. It'll be like a full circle. Like I started
Yeah,
off at
because
your studio. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes things come you didn't plan,
Yeah.
and they come,
Yeah.
man, and then aren't you happy it was recording?
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, absolutely.
so,
Absolutely. Like I can't see myself, doing anything
a
else.
lot of music is made by mistake, by the way.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. I remember there were
that's all.
there were notes.
Suddenly you play a chord,
Yeah.
and oh, I didn't plan it, but it's
Like
sounding
you
so damn
remember what
good.
was that
Yeah, no,
song
like
in Lead the Way? Embrace You. So in that the da-da-da-dan, 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 right? So and then there was that note in the pre-chorus, um, dung, dung, dung. It was like there was a bass thing that you played, which I think was supposed to be in the chorus or something like that. But I remember it was like, or maybe you had played it and then we were trying to move things around in Cubase and it fell on the wrong spot. But I was like, wait a
yeah,
second, what is that? Holy shit, that sounds amazing. And then we're like, wow,
yeah,
wow, let's just keep that. Let's just keep that there.
yeah. Things like that are happening all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You just need to keep an ear out for it.
So
So
if you were, I mean, if you were on a desert island, I mean, so-called desert island, and if you could only choose 5 plugins, or it could be plugins or it could be analog gear, it doesn't matter. If you could choose 5 things to enable you to.
I'd use the cheapest ones available because the humidity would kill the equipment,
Okay,
man.
but let's not talk about like not real desert. If you were just given the choice that okay, that we're going to make everything else, we're going to discontinue it and we're going to cancel it. You only have these 5 plugins. What would be those 5 plugins or gear that you would sort of
Uh,
keep?
uh, Definitely a drummer 1960 because it's a part of me. It's a part of me.
Okay.
I've never been without one.
Okay.
I've been without one for the last couple of years.
Mhm.
I mean, like,
Well, yeah, but
now I'm
that's
gonna get that one.
yeah. Okay.
But
So that's one.
that's one. Uh, I'm not very proud of saying this, but Melodyne, definitely,
Okay.
definitely, because it just brings that sheen sometimes to things.
Even
You know,
auto
and
tune, if it's not actively tuning, I think it gives a very good texture to vocals. So sometimes I'll
yes,
put it on even
because
when it's not
these are
tuning.
tools. These are tools that help me like retain the first takes.
Right.
I don't discard the first takes because I know feel is more important. I can
Right.
pitch it up.
Yeah.
I can pitch it. I can pitch it fine, but feel I cannot create.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
know, so this is to uh, to validate all the things that would have otherwise been discarded, which have great feel.
Yeah.
So that is why I just value a tool like Melodyne so much.
Okay. Cool.
Is
Yeah.
because
Fair enough. Fair enough.
you know.
Yeah. Next.
Then uh, Fab Filter is blowing my mind.
Which one?
So Q3,
That's
the
yes.
EQ.
That's definitely one of mine as well. I love
I
it.
think we've arrived.
Yeah.
We've arrived. I don't. My dreams of having a good EQ
Yeah.
in the digital space,
Yes.
and just how handy it is. It's
Yeah, and
just
just the
amazing.
dynamic EQ function is just amazing,
Yes,
man. It's like
it's amazing.
I don't need to go to a multi-band compressor anymore. Like because it's
Yes,
just it's just amazing.
the Sound Toys bundle.
Okay,
It's
no, but you
just
have to choose
something I
one
can't do without.
plugin out of Sound Toys. Decapitator, Echo Boy,
Decapitator, Echo Boy,
Tremolator.
Decapitator,
Yeah.
Echo Boy, Crystallizer.
Yep. Yeah. Tremolator is great. Bandman is great.
Tremolate. What? Oh, hey, five. Listen, man.
Okay, so Sound Toys, I will grant you that. So what's next?
Yes. And some nice sample libraries and like
Really?
LASS
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
like
I don't think
for
I've
now
used that.
like
LASS.
Spitfire audio.
Yes, Spitfire. So we use Spitfire stuff a lot, especially for my
Yeah.
album because so Sunny, the composer, who's also my assistant, he's been composing a lot of the stuff. So he is using a lot of Spitfire libraries for a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah. So
I just love Spitfire.
they
And,
sound amazing. Yeah.
East West.
Okay.
East West.
Okay.
East West has this thing called a composer cloud where you can subscribe and you have access to all of their stuff. which
Right.
is
So just like Plugin
unbelievable.
Alliance or Slate, and a lot of
Yes.
people are doing that now. UAD has also started something similar with UAD Spark,
Okay.
but it has
Okay.
because now it's a subscription and it's native, not DSP. So,
Yes.
but it's limited plugins as of now. But I think every month they keep adding a plugin here or there. So eventually, I
Right.
feel and I hope that they just make it available for all the plugins. Because I think their business will grow a lot more. So I love the Plugin Alliance stuff because I love the analog consoles, the emulations that they have on there, and I love the TMT technology that they use. That they have not modeled a channel strip; they've modeled an entire console. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so you can say random select all channels. So suppose like the way I like to mix is I'll choose a console that I want to use for this mix, and I put that on every track. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's almost like you're getting that saturation and stuff. So it's a little bit of common ground for everything. So it's like mixing on an analog console. Maybe sometimes I might change something for the kick or something. That's different. But on a whole, it's one console. But now what it does is that your whatever kick will be channel 4 and your snare is
Right.
channel 8. And so there's
Right.
subtle differences between all the channels. So if you were to, so which is
Like how they would be
which
on
is
an
what it
analog.
would be like on an actual console. It would never be exactly the same. So
Yeah.
I think that just somehow adds a whole other element to the mix that just gives it this whole depth and vibe, and which is great. Obviously I love mixing in the box mainly, and currently like my mix bus is partially in the box, but mostly analog. But
Right.
your mix bus is something that barely ever changes. Once you've dialed in those settings, it's very unlikely that you'll change them. So but if you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
tweak, make a little change here, or client comes back, ne ye kam kar do, wo kam kar do, ye kar do, usko thoda sparkly बढ़ा दो, uska thoda ye kar do, you can always go
Yeah.
back and do it on the box, in the box, but it's still
Yeah.
running through the
Yeah.
same analog chain out there. All right, man.
Yeah.
So listen, before we sort of say goodbye, is there any sort of just words of advice that you have for anybody? And also, what is next for you? Like, what do we have to look forward to?
Well, right now there's a couple of projects that are still under wraps, so I won't be able
Okay.
to disclose much. But Jamtara is coming up.
It's a great show, and it's amazing that you're part of it. And I tell people that very proudly. I'm like, dude, my bro, City. He's like, the guy that's doing that. So, okay, but I know you can't mention stuff
Yeah.
that's under wraps right now, but do you want to mention your socials, your social media
Uh,
stuff where people can follow you?
yes, I have just made a professional handle called Siddhant Mathur Music on Instagram, and that's where I usually now henceforth will be posting all about all my upcoming works and stuff. And yeah, my personal handle is Sid Maths.
Okay.
Like my it's and this handle has been with me for a
Like your
while.
email,
So
Sid Maths. I
yeah.
remember that.
Like,
Yeah, man. Yeah,
so
dude. But been amazing catching up, and thanks for coming by on the show. And I hope you'll come back. Maybe when you can actually talk about the next project, it'll be amazing to always, have you back. And because there's so much
yeah,
more to talk about, I think it's
this
really
is
hard to uh, for us to keep talking for just an hour and just sort of call it quits. But we got to do
yeah,
that for the
yeah.
sake of the show. so
All right.
so yeah,
Yeah,
man.
it's been a lot of fun, man.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. All right.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you have just transformed from this musician to a whole like a producer.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. So it'll be amazing to work on
yeah,
something together.
I've seen that journey too. So we need to talk
Yeah,
about that
yeah.
journey as well.
Absolutely, dude.
Like
Absolutely, absolutely. So
yeah,
100%.
maybe we'll do role reversal
Yeah,
next time
yeah.
or
Okay,
something. I'll be
cool,
asking the
cool. I can
questions
I
like
can tell my
you know.
story. I'm pretty sure these guys have heard it a million times. But yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think a podcast is all about discussion, and it's all about just basically catching up and just exchanging stories.
Yeah,
So awesome, man.
yeah.
Thanks so much, and thank you for being in the
Yeah,
box.
thanks for having me over. And it was like amazing, like
Yeah.
uh, catching up, man. This
Absolutely.
is amazing.
Absolutely. All right, buddy.
Yeah,
Hope to see you soon. Take it easy.